Yeah, we went through the main areas of QuickBooks, the vendors, the vendor center, the customer center, the employee center, and then we looked at the chart of accounts briefly and the items and services. Let's close this company. And we're going to open a sample product-based business. Everybody understand the difference between a product-based business and a service-based business, yes? It should be straightforward, but basically a service-based business doesn't need to keep any inventory in stock, all right? So that simplifies the form of business. So let us use a product-based business. That's more common anyway. And we go in open. So that is how you open the company file. You click on the appropriate company file or the company name and click open. This notification only comes up because we're using a sample file, all right? And notice that it will set today's date for the transactions that we're doing to the 15th day of December 2020, all right? So if you see the date looking off, that's just because we're using a sample file. All right. Welcome to QuickBooks. The yellow boxes show you what's new as you work. All right. So we're not going to worry too much about the what's new because we already had a look at the basic interface, right? But let's look at the company file that's actually configured, fully configured. You see, you have a lot more options in the vendor center. I mean, it's really the same options that you have here, right, from the menu. But you can see they've added a lot more processes. So, for instance, if you are a company that creates purchase orders before you actually make purchases, right? Then you have the option to create a purchase order, then receive inventory, then enter bills against that inventory and pay bills. So in our simplified version, right, we were just looking at, we would enter bills from a vendor such as Cable and Wireless or Dominic, Dowasco, or any of our wholesalers, and then we would pay the bills. But in a more complicated business setup, you have the option to create purchase orders, right? Which is basically to create an order to make a purchase, to request goods or services from a vendor, right? The next step of that is after you create a purchase order, it's accepted by the vendor, you would then receive inventory, right? You would get your inventory with a bill. They would tell you, here's inventory, but now you owe us this amount. You would put that in, you would create a bill against inventory, and then finally pay the bill. All right. The customer center is pretty much the same. You would start by creating an estimate if they wanted one. Then you'd create an invoice if you were to create the services, if you were to perform the services and then bill, right? Or if you were to provide the goods and then expect payment afterwards, so you'd receive payment after the invoice. Or if you were receiving payment at the time of the purchase, you would receive payments and then create a sales receipt for the client, which you could then report. So the customer process remains the same. For the employees, we have the option to enter time. So if you bill your employees by time, right, you can enter time for the employees. Then you would pay your employees, then you pay your liabilities such as your tax, your social security, and so on, and process payroll forms, right? For the most part, you want to enter time, pay employees, pay liabilities. Okay, so let's look at the entire business process, right, from start to finish. So let's assume, well, first of all, let's look at a few things. Let's look at this business. It's called Sample Rock Castle Construction, right? And that is a sample company file that comes with QuickBooks. And we can get an idea of what that company does by looking at the items and services here. So if I go to the company center and I click on items and services, let's open that up. I can see the list of items they provide. Blueprint changes, blueprints, concrete slab, floor plans, framing, installation, labor, removal, repairs, subcontracted services such as carpet, drywall, ductwork. So they look like they're a construction company, pretty much, right? They create cabinets, cabinet pulls, door frames, wooden doors, lumber, appliances, fluorescent lighting. I skip in some because they realize they do a lot of items and we're not going through it. They also charge for delivery, right? And a few other things that are basic, that are customized to the company. Again, if you're creating a company file, you'll be working closely with an accountant who would have in-depth information about the company, how it operates, the accounts that are required, the items and services that are required, and they would work with you to create that. Or you could create it on your own. It would take some time, go through it step by step if you know your business. All right. But we can tell by the list of items and services that are provided what the company does. All right. So let us look also at the next thing, because we're going to start with the vendor center, right? But let's look at the vendors that they have. So we can go to vendors here and pull up the vendor center. Actually, we can do a report. But if I just pull up the vendor center, it shows me on the right here. Sorry. Let me just adjust my screen so we can see everything clearly. All right, guys? All right. So we can see our list of vendors. It starts from H-Chong Limited, Bank of any city. It goes down Bayshore Water, City of Middlefield, Employment Development Department. So these are all of our vendors. These are the people that we purchase items from. Hamlin Metal, Miller Dan, and we can see that for some of our vendors, we have a balance outstanding for them. So in this case, Hamlin Metal, we have a current balance outstanding of $670. And we can see in the vendor information on the right, the vendor information panel on the right, we can see that we had a bill from this vendor on the 11th of the 12th month, 2020, right? Okay, let's start from the bottom. So we paid them a check, right, of $1,000. That's how we started our relationship with them, by giving them a check of $1,000. Then we have a bill for $249. Then you realize here we paid a bill with a check for $249. Then we have another bill from them for $950. On the 14th of November, we paid that on the 5th of December, $950 with a check. And again, we'll go through how we do all of that in detail. I'm just showing you the detail that we have for a customer in an existing company, right? And then the last transaction that we have a bill outstanding for them that was sent in on the 11th of December, and it was for $670. All right. So since we have that there already, we're going to attempt to, let me just make a note of it. Sorry, let me grab my pencil. Right, one of our transactions, we're going to come back and we're going to pay off that Hamlin Metal bill. But first, we're going to enter a bill to see how it is done. All right. Everybody has any questions on the vendor center here? You can see if I click on any vendor on the left side, it automatically updates and shows the relevant vendor information, the list of transactions you have with that vendor on the right side. Everybody see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's close this. And let's just have a look at the report one time before we continue, right? So let's say we wanted to get, let's just say I was hired as the new manager of Sample Rock Castle Company, right? Castle Rock Construction Company. And I wanted to see how much is it the company owes right now to the vendors so I could get a handle on my bills, right? I could go to the report menu, right? I could pull it up from the report center, but let's just go to the vendors and payable. And let me get the vendor balance summary. If we go vendor balance detail, let's go summary. And that basically shows us a list of the vendors that we owe money to, right? And we can see Hamlin Metal is on that list. We owe them that $670. So we have a total for all of our vendors owing of $26,636.92. All right. So notice that is a generic summary of our vendor balances. It shows all dates, so all time. We can look at vendors we owe only this week or vendors we owe only this month by customizing our report in different ways. Okay. But let's come out of the report for now. And let us do a simple routine task that you will be required to perform when working with any company, all right? And doing bookkeeping for them, entering bills. So let's say it's, well, let's enter a bill. Let's see what we have. I'll go and give a month an example, but let's enter a more appropriate example. So we click on enter bills and we're greeted with this bill screen. We first select the vendor, right? Let us assume that Cal, gas and electric, or let's say CU Electric. CU Electric, we get, okay. So they provide electric services. So let's say that is the Sample Rock Castle construction equivalent of Domlec. All right. So we get a monthly bill and they said that we're owing $500 for lights, for power, right? For our electric bill. And our reference number is, that's our bill number. Let's call it bill 2022-1, right? So we put in the reference number and we got it on today's date. Remember, today is set to the 15th of December, 2020. So we got the bill today. We're entering it today. All right. Then we can put in the detail. We can put in a memo there if we need as well. We can put in the terms. Net 30 means we have to pay it within 30 days. Net 15 means we have to pay it within 15 days. Due and receipt means as soon as you get it, it's due, and so on. All right. 1% net 30, 2% net 30 basically means you pay an interest on it. But so these are the terms. Terms net 30 meaning we have to pay it within 30 days. All right. And the discount date for special arrangements. So again, notice the account is pre-configured. Again, you will have done that for your accountant. So it goes to the expense account, electric and gas. So you can see that the bills that we typically pay to CU Electric are for electric and gas, right? And let's enter in December 2020. So that is probably the bill for November. So electric bill for November 2020, right? So we enter a memo stating that what the bill is for. You could put in the details on the bill or however you feel to record it. The important thing is that you record how much you owe the vendor, right? And if it's associated with any job, any ongoing job, then you could fill in additional information here or any class. But we're leaving all of that blank for now because it's just a basic electric bill. We want to save and close. All right. Let's go back to our, let's do a quick report, right? Vendors and payables, and we look at the vendor balance. Let's go look at the detail now. We would get pretty much a more detailed list of vendors, right? You can see before it was just showing the vendor name and the balance. Here we can see a list of the transactions, right? And we can see CU Electric, right? Okay, we're showing too much detail here, so I'm gonna close that report and just go for the summary. So we don't have to scroll so much. So vendor balance summary rather than the detail. So there we can see the summary. All right, so CU Electric. If we want to see the detail now on CU Electric, we can actually just double click on the amount that we owed and it brings up the list of transactions. Notice now we have, sorry, let me just open up the values there. We can see the list of transactions that we've had from them, starting from all the way 2018 at the top, right? So we had a bill and we paid it for check. We had another bill, we paid it for check. We had another bill, we paid it for check. Then we had 2 bills before we paid it for check. Bill check, but we're only interested in this last one here that we put in today, right? Which is bill 2022-1. You can see the bill number, the invoice number, right? And it was for $500. So together with an outstanding amount that we already had, right? And partial payment, we now owe CU Electric a total amount of $1,250. Everybody see that? So we had owed them $750 before, right? We can go through and see the list of transactions, bill payment, bill payment, bill payment, bill payment. And then when we added that last bill of $500, we got to a total of $1,250. Everybody understand how we enter bills? Any questions on that? No? All right. So we're moving on. It may not necessarily be the next day, but at some point you're going to want to pay your bills. And since we've been dealing with CU Electric so far, let us make at least a partial payment of that new bill that they sent. They sent that $500 bill, right? We want to clear it off. We do have that previous one, which we probably should clear first. But for today and for our example, we're going to pay just our latest bill. So we go to the next item in the transaction order, which is pay bills. And again, just to enforce, you don't have to go through here. You could actually go through your vendors menu here, right? And go pay bills here as well. So the home screen just gives you an easy way to know what's next and to click on a one-click option, a one-click gateway basically. But you can access all of the options from your menus. All right. So all right. So we have a list of our bills here, right? All of our bills totaling to $23,677. Remember, we just want to pay this last one. We can see it here. Reference number bill 2022-1, right? To CU Electric, right? We'd essentially select the bill that we want to pay. We could just put a little check in the checkbox next to it. If you want to pay multiple bills, right? Then we would select that previous $500 bill, that previous $250 bill. But for today, we only want to pay that one $500 bill, bill 2022-1. Check the bill, right? Notice it pulls the information from the bill, including the payment date, right? Right? Actually gives us an option to select which account we're paying the bill from, right? We select pay selected bill. There we have a payment summary, basically showing that the bill is paid. We successfully paid the bill on today's date. We paid it from our checking account. That's our checking account number, and we used the check. We didn't specify a check number or any of that information, so that information is not included. All right. You could, if your company printed checks, print checks from that window. At this point, we could be done with paying bills, or we could go back to pay more bills. All right. Let's say we have a little extra cash, right? And we're up to pay that $500 bill, right? From CU Electric, but we don't have everything right now. We want to make a partial payment, right? We can change the amount to pay here. Let's say we want to make a $100 payment, right? We change the amount to pay to 100, right? And notice sorry. So we select, we put in the amount that we actually paying, so 100. All right. It has the relevant information. It's not a bill that we entered, so we cannot get we don't have a reference number or anything like that. But we can pay selected bill. We're gonna pay $100 on that $500 bill. Right? So you can see the status of the transaction. We paid from our checking account for a check $100. Right? That's good. Done. And let's do a quick report to see our vendors and payables. Let's do a detail this time, a vendor balance detail again, because you see it at the top. Yes.
I not seen the thing not showing my screen. I see you, but I not seen what you showing.
You not seeing my screen?
No, I seen you, and but I not seen what you showing.
Okay, let me share again. So 1 minute, okay?
It was fine, and then it just stopped showing.
All right, I'm gonna share it again. Can you see now?
Just now.
Is everybody else have?
I see you now. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Everybody else can see my screen, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay. So the last thing we did was we paid CU Electric. Let's do a quick report. Report vendors and payables. We want to see the vendor balance detail, so we can look at the detail. So CU Electric, we can see our last transaction, our last two transactions here on the 15th of December 2022, which in our example last today, we can see we made a $500 payment, right? Which brought the balance to $750, right? And then we also made a $100 payment, which brought our total balance to $650. So we now owe CU Electric $650. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I can see it.
So that is how you would enter bills and pay bills in QuickBooks. All right. Now again, you realize that the process does get a little bit more complicated. Let's just quickly look at the purchase order. All right. We're gonna leave that for later, but for the purchase order, it's really simple. You would select a vendor, all right? You would select an item that you were purchasing, put in the description, everything, and you would save a new, and you would essentially print that out to take it to purchase the item. All right. Once the item is purchased, you would then have to receive the inventory. So you would say you receive inventory with bill. So you put in a bill, right? And you would put in your inventory items. Okay, we're gonna leave that for another example later on. For now, we enter a simple bill, we pay a simple bill. All right, everybody get that? Cool. Let's move on to the next major transaction that you'll be, well, the next major group of transactions that you'll be doing if you're doing bookkeeping for any company, right? Which is the customer process. So we're going to do the entire process, right? From an estimate. We will just do, we'll do estimates, we'll do an invoice, and afterwards we'll do a sales receipt, okay? All right, so for our sample rock castle construction company, let's say that a customer, and we're not gonna create a customer yet in the interest of time, right? Okay, I just realized we have only 9 minutes left before our next break. So why don't we just create a customer and get that over with, and then when we come back in, we look at the customer process. Okay. So let's say we wanted to create an estimate for a new customer, And let's say that new customer name was Leonard Green. That's me, by the way, right? So I want to get an estimate as to how much it would cost for the Sample Rock Castle Construction Company to do some type of work for me. We'll get to that in a bit. The first thing I want to do is select my customer. Because it's a new customer, it's not on the list. If it was an existing customer, we'd simply select the existing customer. And we may have existing jobs for existing customers, so we might want to put that in. But it's a new customer, so we're going to add new this time around. Click add new, we get this window, which is the new customer window screen, and we're going to enter the customer information. So the customer name is Leonard Green. Just give me a quick minute, guys. All right, so the customer name is Leonard Green. All right, let's put in the company name. So my company name is Digital Solutions. All right, and let's put in the full details here. So that is Mr. Actually, the customer name would be the company name. Let's put in the company name. So I do it through my company. Right, so Digital Solutions, that's the company name, and the contact name would be Mr. Leonard Green. My telephone number, let's put in mobile, right, would be 275-4693, right? And you could put in any more information. Ideally, it's best to have as much information as possible about the client. But for example, today, we only want the name and the telephone number, right? We could also put in an address, email, website. We could configure payment information if they want to put a credit card on file. We could configure tax if we, well.
So link to it, they have a business and they have a link?
Right, they would have a website. We'll put in the website information there. And you realize all of the other information. We can even put in their Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We can put up to 4 URLs for them, their Skype ID, and other information. Right? So all information for them, relevant information for them, we will put it in, right? And we could actually create a new job. So let's say we work by projects. We could create a new job. So let's say the job was to create a kitchen cabinet for me. We would create a new job, kitchen cabinet. But for now, let's leave that out, right? We're just creating a new simple customer with basic information, right? And we click in OK. So notice our customer is here. And what do we want to build for? I think they do kitchen cabinets, right? Let's see. Kitchen cabinets. Yeah. So inventory parts. We want a cabinet from the Sample Rock Castle Construction Company. So we're asking for an estimate, and they're giving us an estimate. We want, say, 2 cabinets. The cost for each one is $500. 500 is an easy round number, so that's why I like it. So you can see my estimate comes up to $1,000. However, because we have San Thomas tax, in our case, it really would be VAT at 15%, and I'll show you how we configure that later on. But we have a San Thomas tax of 7.75%, which adds $77.50 to my purchase. So you can see now my new value is $1,077.50, including tax. All right. We can then save. All right. We have the option to save and close, save and create a new estimate here, but we can also just save up here, save to save the estimate and keep working on it, right? So at this point, we might want to email it to the client. We might want to print it out and give it to the client. So we have the options here to print, right? And we can even print the envelope maybe. But again, for now, we just want to create the estimate, assume that we print it. So let's assume I click preview and then I click print, right? And then I deliver that to the client. So now save and close. All right. That is how we would create an estimate for a client. and also create a new client during the process. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, let's say a few days have passed. I look over the estimate. I discuss it with my business partners, and I decided, hey, you know what? That's a pretty good estimate. I want to go ahead with the purchase, right? I can now opt to create an invoice, right? So let's say, well, actually, you would really create the invoice if I say, all right, I want the purchase, so I purchase the cabinets, and then I expect to pay them later on. So they're then going to bill me for my purchase, and then I'm going to pay them at a later date. So they will then create an invoice for digital solutions, right? QuickBooks will automatically notice that this customer has an existing estimate and ask you if you want to create an invoice from the estimate, which will save you quite a bit of time. You create the invoices and estimates the same way. You basically select an item, you customize the description, you put in a quantity, a rate, and so on, right? But because we've already done that for the estimate, you can select the estimate here, click OK, and it will automatically, sorry, keep going on the other screen. We can create an invoice for the entire estimate, right? Okay. And notice we have, all right, we'll talk about that error in a bit, but notice we have the invoice created, right? For the 2 cabinets at $500. We do get a message here saying you have insufficient quantity on hand to sell item cabinets. That means that we don't have any cabinets in stock, all right? However, we can order it and deliver at a later date. So we simply click OK and we continue with our transaction. If you did have cabinets in stock, what would happen is it would then deduct 2 from your number of items in stock, and your stock would drop by 2. All right. So let's finish the invoice. So we make the purchase today. They would send us an invoice and they would tell us that it is due again today because they want cash on delivery. They could optionally say it's due at the end of the week. Let's see, like the 18th. All right. Save and close. And now we have an invoice. We can look at we can create a report actually, or rather than creating a report, let's just have a quick look at the customer center. So we can click on customers, go to the customer center. You will pull up a list of all of our customers. We will notice digital solutions is on the list and the balance, right? We have an estimate for them and an invoice showing $1,077.50 owing. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir. I see.
All right, guys, we're gonna stop off here, take a next break. It's now 2:56. We're gonna come in back at about 3:05. If there's a little delay, it's just for the recording to save, all right? And we're going to continue with entering working with the customers, creating a receipt and paying off that invoice. All right, guys, so see you back in about 10 minutes, about 3:05.
Okay, sir. Cool.
If any questions you may have, then we're gonna continue right where we left off.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.